Expecting another raucous crowd tonight at Mizzou Arena. Plenty of buzz around this Missouri program and their big freshman class led by Michael Porter. They were winners on Friday night over Iowa State, and now they get set to take on the Wagner Seahawks, who also come in at 1-0. And we welcome you to Columbia, Missouri. I'm Beth Mowens alongside Sean Farnham. We do have an update for you on Michael Porter. His leg injury will keep him out of the lineup tonight, so a chance for some other guys to step up here.
Well, yeah, and you look at this injury, and his status is listed as day-to-day. He was not at shoot-around earlier this afternoon. In fact, he's not even out on the floor yet. His team has already been announced. They've gone through the national anthem, still not out on the floor. We've been told he is in the building, but they do not think that it's a significant injury that should keep him out a long period of time.
One of the things, Sean, we did find out on Friday night in that win over ISU, they do have some other guys here that can get the job done that they're excited about.
You know, I'm excited about this Missouri team, and I believe in them, not because of just the freshman class, and in particular Michael Porter Jr., but you look at the screen, you see two seniors and a junior. They're experienced players at the Division I level. Jeremiah Tillman is off to a great start. He's the other freshman, and he's the one that's playing tonight. You got to keep an eye on him because he can really eat up a lot of space underneath and provide some muscle for Coach Martin.
Tigers will be in their home whites, Wagner in their road black jerseys. And we are underway in Columbia out of the Northeast Conference. And a team that pulled off a huge upset almost a year ago to the date at Connecticut. They've shown they can hang tough with the Power 5 and the breakaway jam for Jordan Barnett to open the scoring.
Well, one of the big concerns for Wagner and Coach Mason was the fact they turned the ball over so frequently in their game against NJIT, and opening possession, just a very careless pass leading to an easy finish. It's so good to have college basketball back. Tomorrow night with the Champions Classic, it's going to be just a phenomenal event. The best teams in the country, all in Chicago. Tonight, an opportunity to see a team in Missouri that I think is a top 25 caliber team and will be in the top 25 as the season goes along.
There's a look at one of the new guys, Jeremiah Tillman inside. They're going to have tremendous size, and that's going to be an issue for every opponent they face this year.
Jeremiah Tillman from East St. Louis, which is such an important recruiting stronghold for Missouri when it is at its best, and they had lost that stronghold, and I think Jeremiah Tillman's going to open up that door to allow Coach Martin to go back in and recruit and just continue to pull in top-notch talent from this state and keep it here locally.
Not only that, Sean, but that is Conzo Martin's hometown. The first-year head coach for the Tigers.
You see Coach Martin, first season here, got his first win, a big win, a 15-point victory over Iowa State here on Friday. The biggest win for anyone that's in a Mizzou uniform. I mean, that's the best win they've had over the course of their career. And for me, I want to see how they can come back the next game, and if they bring the same level and the same focus, the same attention to detail, a good start here early against Wagner.
One of the things they're going to have to do is not only gain some confidence, but also some chemistry. And as Conzo Martin has talked about, learn how to win and win consistently. They'll have a tough challenge their next time out. They'll be on the road at Utah. And we've got a whistle and a foul on the box out. That's going to go against the Seahawks. And JoJo Cooper, the senior out of Wilmington, Delaware. Bashir Mason is the head coach for the Seahawks, now in his 6th season. He played collegiately at Drexel for Bruiser Flint, and then is a part of the Hurley family coaching tree, Danny in particular.
A lot of whistles here early. That one goes against Kevin Puryear.
6'7" junior out of Blue Springs, Missouri. Now, you talked about a team that's got to learn how to handle success. They're coming off their worst season here in 50 years. It was just 8 wins a year ago, and that led to the release of head coach Kim Anderson.
I'll tell you, the team last year continued to fight, and they fought all the way through the end of that season. It just struggled too much.
like to welcome those of you now joining us here in Columbia, Missouri. Tigers up early on Wagner out of the Northeast Conference. Beth Mullins along with Sean Farnham. And on the Michael Porter front, the news is not good for the Tigers. He is out with that leg injury. They hope to have him back perhaps by their next game, which would be a road trip to Utah. We did not see Michael at shoot-around earlier today, and he actually was not out here on the floor pregame with his teammates.
And he is still not on the bench. Now, we have been told that he is in the arena, back in the locker room.
Cullen Van Leer, the 6'4" junior, earning the starting job in one of the spots for a Missouri team that looks a lot different with the influx of the youngsters and transfers. And there's the triple from Blake Francis.
Did he get off to a hot start this year? 22 points in their opener, and he's one of those guys that's going to step into this environment and start to thrive from it. I expect him to not maybe necessarily get 22 points, but certainly be the leading scorer at the end of the night for Wagner. He's going to fill that role in all season long.
Cassius Robertson, their new point guard. The tip won't go the first time, but the second time is good from Tillman.
Tillman has that motor. It just doesn't stop. I mean, he just continues to play hard, and he talks defensively. He just called out the screen there. And it's an everyday thing in practice. I was here for a feature story on Michael Porter Jr. that aired last week on SportsCenter a couple weeks back, and I was blown away with how active he is as a freshman and how much he's talking this early on.
6'10" out of East St. Louis and a former Illinois signee.
Now, you just see him just work. It's not the first one, it's the second one that's going to end up getting the ball through the hoop. And when you have that kind of effort, that kind of motor, I'm telling you, Coach Martin, that's his type of player right there.
The word he used when we talked to him earlier today, Coach said he's got great spirit. And it's been infectious with this team. Here is Tillman getting another touch. Goes to the hook in the paint. And in the absence of Michael Porter, there's a guy that can really show what he's capable of. He's got 6 early on.
Well, this team showed what they were capable of on Friday night, and the way they've started this game has been very impressive. Just the attention to detail and the point of emphasis of trying to utilize their size and strength underneath to score.
Got a bump and a foul is going to be called on Tillman. And that will be his first, third on the Tigers.
You know what today is, Beth? Today's Monday.
Other than a Monday, yeah.
It's a Monday. You've worked on Mondays.
I almost called you Rex Ryan when we came on the air, but then I caught myself.
I wanted to congratulate you. First time we've worked together, especially after Monday Night Football. Did such a sensational job earlier this year.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun.
Hopefully this will be a lot of fun for you, too.
I'm sure it will be, Sean. Another pull-up, Jay. Short on that one from Francis. And it's going to go the other way. Rebound on the foul. Good box out there by Missouri.
Yeah, no Porter out on the floor tonight for Missouri. You look for other players to step up. And if Missouri wants to be an NCAA tournament team, they got to have pieces. One of the best ones is Jeremiah Tillman.
On that Missouri bench is Michael Porter. We did not see him at shoot-around today. We were told that he was getting treatment for his injury that he suffered.
And he limited himself to just 2 minutes. You just see him kind of tapping out, asking coach to come out of the game. And it was an injury that he was actually dealing with before the game. He just didn't feel right. He saw him with the ice bag on the entire game. As we've been told right now, he's not going to be joining this team on the bench tonight.
Yeah.
That's kind of surprising. I mean, he was with his team all Friday and not coming out to join his team on the bench tonight.
There's his younger brother, Jonte Porter, who reclassified to join his brother and his father at Missouri this year. Cassius Robertson, transfer from Canisius.
Great offensive rebound, and on an offensive rebound, it's always one of my favorite times to get a wide open, uncontested three, especially on a quick ball reversal. An excellent job that time by Missouri, swinging the ball, and something they practiced at the end of their shoot-around today is that one more opportunity. Swing the ball and find the great shot, not just the good shot.
Both of these shoot-arounds today were pretty intense for game day workouts. And as Bashir Mason told us, the coach for Wagner, he said, Missouri mirrors us in how we like to play the game. The only problem is they're bigger, they're stronger, and they're more athletic than we are. Robertson gets it to go. They've hit 7 of their first 10 shots.
And a lot of them coming inside the paint. A point of emphasis, obviously, try to collapse this defense. Wagner has hung its hat at the defensive end of the floor. It is where their strength of their program is. And the fact that Missouri is being so patient, not turning the ball over, valuing each possession, I think that's what stands out in the early stages of this game for me.
Going to get called for an offensive foul there on the screen. Nick Madre, his first.
You watch the last 2 possessions ago, the offensive rebound that leads to the tap out, and then watch the quick ball reversal. Unselfishly move the ball, no dribbles, uncontested, wide open look from the outside. It doesn't get much cleaner than that.
And the 15-3 lead. Quick start here for the Tigers. Barnett working it down low to Porter. Trying to muscle his way in. Banks it home.
I really think Jonte Porter is just going to continue to develop and grow. People forget he's supposed to be in high school. He's supposed to be enjoying his senior year in high school. Now, the family's been homeschooled forever, but they did play on a high school team, the local public high school team when they were in Seattle. Could have done the same thing here in Columbia. But his work ethic is what stands out to me. He's got that drive in him, and you see him at practice wanting to get better. He can stretch you from the outside, but getting more and more comfortable using his frame with his back to the basket at the collegiate level.
And we often see that, don't we, with the younger brother who's been playing and growing up in the shadows of the older superstar. Sometimes they have that work ethic, just trying to compete every day.
His whole family likes to compete. His sisters, Bree and Sierra, both part of the women's program here at Missouri. Bree, unfortunately, has dealt with some ACL issues.
Her mom, an outstanding basketball player. And, of course, their dad, Michael Porter Sr., one of the assistant coaches this year for Conzo Martin. Nice dump off inside, and the miss down low by Nico. That was the first rebound of the half for the Seahawks.
Well, 7 minutes into the game when you get your first rebound. That's not a statistic when you look at Wagner and just how well they've rebounded the ball last couple of seasons. Now, obviously their roster has had major turnover, but they have been one of the best rebounding teams in their conference each of the last 2 years.
You talked about how they pride themselves on their defense with Bashir Mason. They really would love to try and play a little faster on the offensive end. It's a team that has struggled to score in the past. Were expected to compete for the Northeast Conference Championship last year and got bounced from their conference tournament in heartbreaking fashion on a buzzer beater by St. Francis.
Oh, I don't know how that is on Jeremiah Tillman. But they're going to call that on Jeremiah Tillman. That's his second personal foul. He had his hands straight up. It was an errant pass that brought the offensive player back into him. I disagree with that one.
And Tillman's going to have to come out. He'll be replaced by Jonte Porter.
And you just watch the ball go in, and he's got his hands up. The contact was made by the offensive player going into Jeremiah.
Tough break there for the Tigers. Joe Cooper. Shot clock's down to 5. Off the bounce. And the walk down in the corner. Good closeout by Porter there. Forces the turnover. They're 5th.
You know, one of the things that Coach Martin, and whether it was at Tennessee, obviously in Missouri State before that, and then, of course, at Cal, his calling card has also been at the defensive end of the floor. And the big thing for him is kind of teaching this young team and the experienced players. He has to approach every single day as if it's a new day and a new opportunity to reteach them everything the way he wants it, whether it be the verbiage, the discipline, and the effort. Great strength underneath by Puryear, finishing through contact. But that's been a big focal point for this Missouri Tigers team in the early stages of this season, has been playing through the next play. How sharp, how crisp, how tough can you be? Whether it be at the defensive end of the floor, which is what he demands, but also the offensive end, like you just saw from Kevin Puryear.
Yeah, it was interesting. You usually don't hear of a coach who moves on to take a new job and not have guys that he's worked with before. He said this is the first time in his career he's got 3 new assistant coaches. So just like the guys are coming together, the staff is as well. with some big expectations this year. Nice play by JoJo Cooper, and he'll be rewarded with the easy land.
JoJo Cooper does a little bit of everything every night. Did not shoot the ball well at all against NJIT. Just 2 of 10, but you look at the stats at the end of the night, 6 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. I mean, he just consistently is the do a little bit of everything for Wagner.
Very good line for the only returning starter this year for the Seahawks. And Porter with the nice turnaround. He's got 4.
These two conferences, by the way, that these two teams are representing, couldn't be any further apart. Wagner's the only team to get a win in the Northeast, and the SEC hasn't lost a game this season. The Tigers trying to do a little bit more here tonight.
Now we welcome you back to Missouri and a look at our notable new head coaches around the country. Successful debut for Patrick Ewing, not so much for Archie Miller.
Yeah, a lot of new coaches, a lot of new places. Washington off to a good start this season as well for Mike Hopkins in the Pacific Northwest, where the Porter family came from. And that turnover leads to a little bit of change in the recruiting landscape, how coaches approach it, the system, what they're trying to build, and how that process comes along. And I think for Coach Martin, the one thing that is a non-negotiable for him is effort and toughness.
Yeah.
You've got to play with outstanding effort. You've got to show great toughness. And when he has those type of players, he has found success at the Division I level as a head coach.
Talked to us today a little bit about Gene Cady, his coach, when he was playing at Purdue, and he said, I still love the mantra of trying to outwork, out-tough, outsmart, outlove the opposition on a nightly basis. And share the juices, I thought was a great line that he has always remembered about how to play together as a team, share the love, share the ball.
They haven't shared the juice all that well. They've only got 2 assists on 10 made field goals. But part of that is because of the amount of dribbles that their bigs are taking underneath. 16 of the 21 points in the early stages of this one have come in the paint for Missouri.
Shooting over 70%. Of course, the other story so far tonight for Missouri, not only is Michael Porter out with an apparent injury, but we have yet to see him in the arena on the bench with his teammates tonight. Was absent this afternoon at their shoot-around. Porter, the top recruit coming out of high school, joining his father and assistant coach, Michael Porter Sr. The brother is here. Jonte, another freshman on the team. A couple of sisters that play for their aunt on the women's team here at Missouri.
Good swing.
Some sharing of the juice.
Share the juice. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, swing the ball, find your teammate again. Second time now they've found that rotate, pass the ball 3 on the outside. The thing about Jonte Porter and his ability to shoot the ball as well as he can from beyond the arc, it forces the opposing big to step up too. So the floor spacing really starts to widen up. It creates lanes to get the ball underneath if you want to, or you can find open shooters if they collapse.
Jonte with the rebound at one end. Spotting up for the 3 at the other, and he knocks it down, assisted by Robertson.
Yeah, just as I was mentioning, his ability to consistently knock down that shot. Very comfortable behind the arc. Back-to-back threes by Missouri. They extend their lead out to 21.
Another look at the play of Jonte Porter. Knocking it down from deep and part of a 21-3 run here for Missouri. They've opened up shooting 75% from the floor. And Sean, we had at least a handful of people come up to us pregame so excited. There is such a buzz around Missouri basketball right now. Both the men's and the women's teams here are expected to compete for SEC championships and beyond this winter.
It's really quite amazing when you think about where this program was a season ago, towards the end of last year, and how empty this building was, and the student section was barely filled. And to put this into perspective, I've done the SEC on Super Tuesday for the last 3 years. I haven't been in this building in 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's changing this year. And look, Coach Martin, it's more than just Michael Porter, clearly. They won against Iowa State. without Michael Porter. They're playing tonight. They're up 21, shooting 75% from the field without Michael Porter. And I think that's the thing that people have to get over. We fall in love with the fresh face and the guy that could be the top pick overall in the NBA draft. And all those things are true for Michael. But this team is a lot more than just Michael Porter Jr., and they've demonstrated that in the early stages of the season.
Jonte off the mark. Yeah, one of the things we've started to see already through the first couple of games, not just Michael, but Jonte Porter and Jeremiah Tillman. Some fresh faces. You get the transfer, Robertson at the point. And you see an extra shot of energy in guys like Kevin Puryear, the 2-year starter who's known nothing but losing here, and now it's an opportunity for a fresh start.
Well, and I think the other thing, too, is they're in a more comfortable role because there's better pieces around them. So it takes pressure off of Kevin. It takes pressure off of Jordan Barnett. They don't have to feel like they have to do absolutely everything to try to will this team to a victory. Instead, they can be comfortable and be patient.
Puryear fouled on the turnaround. And a chance to head to the free throw line. Well, Tuesday on ESPN, it's the 7th annual State Farm Champions Classic from the United Center up in Chicago. Number 1 Duke, number 2 Michigan State at 7 o'clock, and then the nightcap, 7th ranked Kentucky and number 4 Kansas. Going to be a great night of hoops that's also, of course, available live on your ESPN app.
How about the start that Marvin Bagley Jr. had? While Michael Porter's been injured, only had 2 points against Iowa State, Marvin Bagley Jr. came out of the gate with a monster performance for the Duke Blue Devils. And it's going to be so great to see those 4 teams go after each other. Miles Bridges, the preseason National Player of the Year by so many people. I think that he's going to win the award come the end of the year. To see those 2 teams, Duke and Michigan State, and then Kansas versus a Kentucky team that right now is not playing great basketball. You take a look at Marvin Bagley and everything that he brings to the table. 25 points, a record for Duke freshman in the opener. But you look at Kentucky kind of a little bit out of sorts. Struggled with Utah Valley in the first half, then took over in the second half, and then struggled against Vermont yesterday.
Barely beat the Catamounts, who put up a good fight.
Now, make no mistake about it, Vermont is an NCAA tournament team. They won 29 games a year ago.
Offensive rebound in the stick back for Jonte Porter. He's got 9 points and 6 rebounds, Sean, through the first 7 minutes.
And Jeremiah Tillman has been on the bench, saddled with 2 fouls. And so that shortens up the bench. It changes the rotation ever so slightly, but they haven't skipped a beat out on the floor for Missouri.
Puryear with the rebound, a chance for Missouri to run. Pull up 3, Robertson won't go. Look at Porter hustle to keep it alive. Cash for 3 more.
And that's that workman-like mentality I love about Jonte Porter. Not assuming that the first shot's going to be a make. Instead, he tracks down the rebound. Again, the kick out after the offensive rebound. Wide open, uncontested 3. Robertson doesn't miss 2 in a row.
Flirting with a double-double here in the first half. The quick counter here, Robertson drops it off for Terrence Phillips. Porter thought about it, and then Puryear is bumped.
The work ethic of Missouri, the attention to detail, everything going their way here in the first half. If you have any questions on whether or not the Tigers are for real, they look the part right now. They're up 23.
College hoops are here, big time. Boom! It's number 1 Duke versus number 2 Michigan State, number 4 Kansas, battling it out with Kentucky. One night, 2 blockbuster matchups with the college football playoffs, top 25 in between games.
Mizzou Arena, and a hot first half so far for the Missouri Tigers, shooting 67% from the floor, led by Jonte Porter. He's got 9.7 rebounds. Cassius Robertson has 8 points, a couple of triples. The one rough patch has actually been at the foul line. They're just 1 of 3 so far tonight. Make it 1 for 4. They're going to have to get better at that, Sean, because with this lineup, they might have a lot of opportunities with the size they have and the dribble penetrators they've got. Wagner just 25% shooting, only 4 baskets so far in this first half. That one won't fall for E.J. Sumbry. Phillips uses the high ball screen. Solid ball handlers in the game together now. Shot clock's down to 4. Perrier off the bounce, lost it. Knocked out of bounds to the Seahawks. Well, Tuesday on ESPN, we'll have the exclusive reveal of the college football playoff top 25 rankings at 9 o'clock Eastern. That will come between the 2 Champions Classic games at the United Center. Reese and the guys will break it down for you. Also streaming live on your ESPN app. Undoubtedly, there will be some changes at the top.
Hey, think about Georgia falling over the weekend, the way they looked against Auburn, and now you've got, okay, so it looks like Bama, right?
Yeah, Notre Dame's out too.
Notre Dame is out. Wisconsin, still undefeated, but yet people want to poke holes at their schedule.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, who's looking very strong. And then what happens if Auburn beats Alabama in 2 weeks?
That's going to be that's going to open the door for a lot of different teams potentially.
Well, and the Pac-12 is out of it, right? I mean,
at this
you
point,
cover
I would
college
think,
football every single weekend for ESPN. Do you
Yeah.
see any way that a Pac-12 team could play their way in?
I don't see it because there will undoubtedly be better 2-loss teams in the country. So it's going to be really tough for a USC to work their way in there, even if they can run the table.
I wanted to make our own turnover chain tonight. So, like, if I said something that just didn't make a lot of sense, that you just wear like a turnover chain. I just don't know. I mean, we'd have to get the bling with like a little basketball on it or something.
This isn't blingy enough, I don't think. It's more subtle.
And we need
jewelry.
it like in the center of the desk. So, like, if I said something, you just say, you know what, Farnham, you make no sense, and you just grab it and put it around your.
We
your
got the turnover bracelet. Perhaps that would be better.
Yeah, that might work.
To do that, some bling. But yeah, it's been a crazy college football season. Undoubtedly, there will still be some more movement because you're going to see, you know, a Clemson and Miami could clash again. Alabama, Auburn, certainly.
Well, that's the other thing too. The Clemson-Miami ACC championship game will be. What happens if Miami loses that game and you have
playoff,
2 one-loss games between those 2 teams?
Got an injured player right now down for Missouri. That's the freshman out of Chapel Hill, Blake Harris.
Key get for Missouri, and he's a player that is still learning the system, learning exactly what he needs to do to be successful. As he comes down, looks like that left knee made contact with the floor. And he reaches for it. You see him reaching for that left knee. Trainer out there with him right now, but he's a young man that's got a tremendous amount of talent, and there are big things ahead for him. He's got to continue to learn how to play the game at the right speed and the right tempo offensively. It's like a quarterback in football. We're just talking so much about football, but as a point guard, you want to survey the offense. You want to make sure that you're passing and delivering the ball with the right timing, the right precision to be successful.
Dan Bernardo was an NFL standout with the Green Bay Packers, played in a couple of Super Bowls, and Blake, a member of this highly touted freshman class, along with the Porters and Jeremiah Tillman.
Well, it's why he wears number 55.
That's his dad's old number, yeah.
It's good to see him walk off. We'll try to get an update on his condition as soon as they're done evaluating him.
He's a guy, too, that as the year progresses, you know, talking with Conzo Martin, may be able to move into that starting job at the point, because ideally they'd love for Robertson to be able to move back over to his usual 2 spot. But right now they like his leadership right there and his ability to do the dishes. Foul drawn on Reed Nico. That's the third personal now on Nick Madre. Reed will head to the line, a 6'10 sophomore.
It's been an impressive first half for Missouri. And as I mentioned in the first couple minutes of this game, was how would they mentally come out after a big win?
Yeah.
The building doesn't have quite as much buzz as it had on Friday night against Iowa State. How would they play? And they've answered that in a resounding, very well, very strong, very controlled effort.
This is a team that certainly appears hungry for some success after several years of discomfort here in Columbia. And Reed Nico did not like that at all. Staring down the Seahawk that may have grabbed him by the arm and pulled him down there. Got hung up with A.J. Sumbry.
Good job by the officials jumping in on this right away. As they go up and they get tangled, there's no question that he grabbed him by his arm and pulled him down. They could have looked at that one, actually.
Yes.
That is not just your everyday basketball foul. That was a takedown WWE style. I haven't seen an arm drag that good since Ric Flair stopped wrestling.
I knew you were going to bring up the 30 for 30.
How good was that, by the way? Nature Boy?
Outstanding. Nico getting a chance for some extended minutes here with Michael Porter not playing tonight and the early foul trouble for Jeremiah Tillman. And Jonte Porter will replace him here. Talked about building up a little momentum here early on. They'll have a test against Utah on the road. Then they'll also be headed down to play in the tournament down at Disney in Orlando. Or a potential opponent could be West Virginia. St. John's will be there, or Oregon State will be there, Nebraska. Jonte Porter, nice pass and the cut to the rim by Phillips.
Again, floor spacing is so important when you're coaching young teams and you watch AAU tournaments. A lot of times it's just isolation ball, everybody gets out of the way. That's not what you're seeing from Missouri. They space the floor, they know exactly where they need to be, they cut, they move, and they're getting high percentage shots against one of the better defensive teams.
Three from Blake Francis. He was the second best three-ball shooter in the Northeast Conference last year.
To put this into perspective, they gave up 49 points in their last game. Did Wagner.
Missouri.
49 points in their last game. Missouri is going to probably beat that relatively easy going to the half.
65% from the floor here in the first 16 minutes. Preseason prognosticators had them finishing 5th in the SEC this year. Nice cut to the rim. Cooper with the assist to Sumbry. Of course, the Southeastern Conference, 3 teams to the elite, to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8 last year, and then South Carolina getting to the Final Four. They raised the banner tonight in the other Columbia.
Not only did they raise that one, they also obviously raised the women's national championship banner for Dawn Staley and her team. You know, we mentioned it, Coach Martin, he says, share the ball, share the juices. Well, space the floor and find your teammate, have a willingness to make somebody better. They've got that willingness tonight.
Thank you very much, guys. Just the beginning of a big week for Dallin Cuff, by the way. His Arsenal side playing Tottenham. Big North London derby coming up. 44-16, Missouri all over the Wagner Seahawks, shooting 65% from the floor in the first half. As you would expect, a big day for a Porter, but it's Jonte getting it done. 9.7 rebounds, 4 assists without a turnover for the big fella.
He's on pace to maybe have a triple-double. Who would have predicted that Jonte would have a triple-double before Michael, who, by the way, is still yet to be seen.
Not on the bench.
And we have asked multiple times to administration staff here during the first half for the reasoning for why Michael is not with his team on the bench, and we have yet to get any clarification on that.
The rest of the guys are getting it done. Tremendous balance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different guys have scored.
But as Coach Mark said, you're on the train, and when you're on the train just keeps moving forward.
Yep.
And that's how he coaches his team, no matter if you're player 1 or player 16 on the bench. You got to be on board with the train at all times. And the guys that are out on the floor right now, they are on board with this train, and they are executing extremely well.
Terrific response by Konzo on that. And as you said, the guys are ready to play and just keep it rolling. 3-point shot good from Nigel Jackson, the freshman out of Baltimore. They think he's got a really bright future. Worked his way into the starting lineup right away.
Had a knack in high school of being really calm in big moments, and this is a great test for this Wagner team. And, you look at the Northeast Conference, a lot of teams that are going to be in the mix to potentially get that NCAA tournament bid. I think Wagner is still going to be one of those teams, regardless of what you're watching right now and the differential on the scoreboard.
3 ball is good from Terrence Phillips. That is the 6th for Missouri here in the first half. Got to the NCAAs back in 2003 under Derek Wittenberg. And then for a couple of years it was Danny Hurley, who then brought in Bashir Mason, now in his 6th season. Bounce, lost the handle. Phillips, head up. Barnett running the floor.
He stepped
out of bounds. Yeah. Hey, if you haven't marked your calendar already, let's get this done, okay? Tomorrow night on ESPN, it's the 7th annual State Farm Champions Classic. Talk about a blockbuster doubleheader. Duke, Michigan State, and Kentucky, Kansas. The Blue Bloods out in force. Also available on your ESPN app. Between games, the new college football playoff reveal. Got a great Tuesday night set up for you.
This Tuesday, and these matchups is the equivalency to me of what Saturday was to college football.
Oh, nice.
You know, so many of the top-ranked teams going against each other. You've got 4 teams that are the modern-day blue bloods of our sport, all going against each other. I know Kentucky dropped a couple spots down to number 7 today, but a great opportunity for this young Kentucky team to play up to Kansas, who looks really good, and Devontae Graham trying to take over. Frank Mason obviously gone, and what a great season it was for him. But Graham did such a nice job in their opener with a double-double, sharing the basketball. A lot of options available. Malik Newman, the transfer from Mississippi State, now eligible for Bill Self.
Can they make it 14 in a row? Big 12 titles. Got a whistle and a foul underneath. Reed Nico's doing some work here in the first half as well.
When you look at the Associated Press top 10, and no surprise that you see so many of those teams that year in and year out we've just come to expect. If you haven't heard or watched Arizona, DeAndre Ayton, an unbelievable talented freshman. Alonzo Trier off to a good start. USC kind of sneaks in at the bottom. People aren't paying attention to him. But Dunk City from Florida Gulf Coast is now out at USC, and Andy Enfield's team is loaded this year. Beanie Boatwright, a big part of that, coming back instead of going to the NBA. And I think you got to watch them in the Pac-12 as it continues to roll along. And one team that was also on there, Wichita State. Landry Shamet, such a very good, talented guard for Greg Marshall. They return almost everybody from last year's team. I think Wichita State is a Final Four team this year. They made the switch to the American Conference, and the Shockers,
big move for
they're not going to shock anybody this year. And the Roundhouse is going to be phenomenal.
Great venue for college basketball. By the way, this place has the opportunity to really be a special place this year. Sold out for every game. And ready to make some noise when the likes of Kentucky and Florida and South Carolina come calling.
And Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Boy, what a nice win that was for Billy Kennedy over in Germany without 2 starters. J.J. Caldwell was expected to be the starting point guard. He's suspended for the first 5 games. And Robert Williams also suspended. And yet they were still able to knock off West Virginia. And if I told you, okay, there's any position you could lose a player at, I promise you, point guard is not the position you want to lose when facing Coach Huggins and his high-pressure Mountaineers.
Preaching to the choir.
But that's what they lost.
Yeah.
And yet they still were able to respond even after a sluggish start and get a monster neutral site win to start their season.
Haven't seen much of the preseason co-players of the year. Robert Williams and Michael Porter. Yante Maton's the other one. How about your SEC news and notes?
Undefeated 16-0. That victory we just talked about. How about Darius Garland going to Vanderbilt? The highest recruit in the ESPN Top 100 era to ever join the Commodores. He's 11th best prospect overall. A huge get for Bryce Drew. When you're beating Duke, Indiana, and UCLA for a player, that's a statement recruit.
Massive. Final 30 seconds of the half. Missouri's already put up a 50 spot. Good fight here by Wagner to keep it alive, getting a couple of chances.
You play for one shot right now if you're Missouri. Execute. You want to work on these special situations. That's the attention to detail you want to see.
Robertson for 3, and he got it.
That details look pretty good, by the way, Beth.
Uncontested triple to beat the buzzer. 7 of them in the first half for Missouri. They shoot 65% from the floor, and a big halftime lead.
Good ball movement, open shots. It's been that way all half.
Let's get you to John and Dallin in the studio. Welcome back. You're watching the SEC on ESPN. Impressive first half of play for the Missouri Tigers. They lead Wagner 54-21, shooting 65% from the floor, 50% from downtown. Great floor spacing in that first half, Sean.
This is what you love to see. They got 10 assists on 19 made field goals. You set a screen, come off. The defense gets caught watching the ball. When you're watching the ball, you have no idea where your guy is. He's spaced out. He's Jonte Porter. He can really shoot it from the outside as well. Swing the ball to him quickly and let him knock it down. Jonte Porter was the story of the first half, not only because of his ability to shoot, but also his ability to pass. This time, they utilized him down low on the block. Watch Terrence Phillips on the outside. There's a space available in the lane. You got to cut hard, you got to cut fast, and you got to deliver a great pass. Missouri did both of those things and found themselves at the rim with an easy layup.
Jonte, 9 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists in that first half. Kevin Puryear goes to work on the low block. We also watched the return of Jeremiah Tillman, who only played 4 minutes. He was in foul trouble in that first half, number 23 in white, back in the paint.
Yep, and we finally got word via Jeff Goodman's Twitter feed about Michael Porter and where he's at. He's in the locker room. They said that he is icing, relaxing on the couch because it is a little bit more comfortable for his injury that he's dealing with. Again, it's a left leg injury. It's listed as day to day. They've got the game coming up against Utah later on this week at Utah. And so he is in the locker room resting and still, I guess, this would be called receiving treatment during the course of the game. So it's good that Jeff Goodman was able to find out that information.
Here is Jeremiah Tillman backing up on the defender and lost it out of bounds. In the absence of Michael, we have seen some terrific play from Jonte. Glimpses from Jeremiah in his limited minutes in the first half, the other members of that freshman class. Blake Harris, who went out with the injury in the first half, still icing his knee over on that bench. Another member of this outstanding class of newcomers at Missouri. Seahawks really struggled to get the offense going in that first half, and Tillman may have just been called for his third personal.
When you think about Jeremiah Tillman, started the game red hot, 4 minutes played, 6 points, 3 of 4 shooting, but the foul trouble took him out of any rhythm and took him out of any part in the first half.
See if Gonzo keeps him in there with the 3 fouls.
You just let him play through. Now, foul trouble, that's the one thing that has plagued Jeremiah Tillman, whether it be at the high school level or even the exhibition games, including the one against Kansas. And he's got to do a better job of trying to make sure that he just bodies up and plays solid. Don't play with your hands. Keep them vertical. Make sure you're not reaching. More time he spends on the floor, trust me, he is going to be an ultra productive player. That looked like a travel. And a good timeout that time by Gonzo Martin, because he just doesn't like what he sees out of his team. It's hard to say you don't like what you see out of your team when you're doubling up your opponent.
Well, Jeremiah Tillman looks like he's going to stay out there with the 3 personal fouls. One of the under the radar guys possibly this year.
All these guys are top 100 recruits, but we spend so much time talking about Marvin Bagley, DeAndre Ayton, Michael Porter Jr. We lose sight of a lot of other talented freshmen. Brandon McCoy, by the way, dealt with some high school knee injuries. If it weren't for those knee injuries, he probably would have been a top 10 prospect. He goes to UNLV, has 25 points, 18 rebounds in his first game. And that's putting in work.
That's a good start.
A lot of talented, fresh faces across the country. You'll get to know him as the year goes on. Jeremiah Tillman, I think, is going to be one of those guys that all season long for Missouri, if this team is to have success in the SEC, Jeremiah Tillman's role is going to be huge. Luka Garza, his size, so important for Fran McCaffrey. And then Alexander Walker for Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech scored 132 points against the Citadel. Now, it is the Citadel. They have a certain style of play that usually allows opponents to find a rhythm offensively, but 132 points in regulation. And he had himself a game. He has gotten off to a great start. I'll see him actually later on this week in New York at the 2-Clay Classic.
That was the 4th personal foul there on Nigel Jackson.
But this is a year where it's not just about the freshmen. A lot of great returning players that will lead their teams to successful seasons. And if you look at the recent trends of going to the Final Four, winning national championships, really outside of Duke, when they won the title most recently, and Kentucky, it hasn't been loaded with a bunch of one-and-done guys. It's been guys that have been experienced and understand what it takes to be successful.
That's certainly the case for Carolina. Of course, they have Joe Barry back, but he's hurt early on in the season. A video game injury in Chapel Hill. It's off the bounce with contact. And Robertson to the line. Tuesday on ESPN, it's the 7th annual State Farm Champions Classic from Chicago, with #1 Duke and #2 Michigan State starting things off at 7. And then it's Kentucky and Kansas to follow.
Now you fall in love with those two matchups. You fall in love with the coaches in the game. But when you talk about returning players, here's one that everybody needs to know. Miles Bridges. He was outstanding last year, got off to a good start again this year. I think he was my pick for National Player of the Year. He's so strong, so athletic, continues to round out his game. And I think Tom Izzo is as good as any coach in the country at maximizing the players that he gets to coach. And Miles Bridges had an opportunity potentially go to the next level.
Yep.
But when he didn't like what he heard, he made the smart decision. He came back to the college game, and college basketball fans and Michigan State fans are going to benefit from it.
Yeah, really excited in East Lansing about the possibilities. Jaren Jackson, another youngster, was terrific for them the other day. Michigan State and Duke, the first game tomorrow night. Robertson, by the way, that last bucket, now 18 points tonight. And the tip is up and in.
It's like almost an own goal that time, I think, by Jeremiah Tillman.
Wagner's going to bring some pressure. Down big early in this second half. Robertson finding his spot. Short. Here comes Blake Francis. He'll pull up in transition and knock it down.
He had 8 games a season ago in double digits. Started off this year, as we mentioned, in the first half with 22 points. Really comfortable from beyond the arc.
Sophomore out of Herndon, Virginia. Have a chance to run with it again. Francis.
And I think the big key in a game like this, and this is difficult if you're on Missouri, how do you keep your edge? How do you continue to see this as an opportunity to work and get better for the next 15 plus minutes of game time? And that is where you want to see growth as a team. You don't want to see lapses mentally into those attention to detail points that Coach Martin continues to talk about with his team.
Tillman fouled underneath. 63-28, Missouri up big. One of the new Missouri Tigers is the transfer point guard from Canisius, Cassius Robertson, who can also knock it down from deep. 4 triples, 18 points here tonight.
Well, he is a shot maker, and he came as a career 40% three-point shooter after his time at Canisius, and he started to find himself in this offense. You know, he made the transition from shooting guard to point guard, and it's a position that he didn't even play in middle school. But yet Coach Martin has instilled the confidence in him because of how he's been able to manage and control the offense. Within that, you want to make sure you find him shots because he is a shot maker, and that's why they went out. They recruited him. They got him to come to Missouri is because his ability to stretch the defense. You're seeing that tonight. I think his efficiency numbers are going to continue to grow based on the talent that is around him.
Grad student from Toronto. He's hungry for an opportunity to win here. Making the most of every practice. They've talked about how relentless he has been. Shot clock violation there. I loved what Conzo Martin said about Robertson. He said, we like the phrase here, have legendary workouts. And Conzo Martin said, years from now, we're still going to be talking about the legendary workouts that Robertson puts in and day out.
I equate it to what Alex Caruso did at Texas A&M. When he was graduating his senior year, and he had Tyler Davis and Admon Gilder and DJ Hogue coming in as freshmen, they learned from watching Alex Caruso and Tyler Davis in particular. Well, now Tyler Davis is in that upperclassman role, a junior now at Texas A&M, and he's passing that along to the freshmen that are coming into the program with Texas A&M. Cassius Robertson is doing the same thing for this talented young freshman crew. He's teaching them that, look, I may be experienced, I might have had some success at the Division I level, but I came here for a reason, and I'm going to leave my mark on this program. There's various ways. It doesn't take a lot of time for people to figure out the right way to do things at the Division I level, or to leave a legacy mark on a program.
Mizzou had numbers, they'll reset it. 7-0 Wagner run right now, and the offensive foul. If that's on Tillman, that's his 4th.
It is, and he's coming out of the game immediately.
Tillman departs, Robertson comes in. Phillips also replaces Geist. The junior from the Bronx turns it over. Porter in the trail spot to Barnett for the corner 3, and the patient whistle and the foul called on Francis.
That foul is not on number 21. That foul should be on number 3. They're correcting that right now.
21 is is the shooter here. Barnett, the senior from St. Louis, in his second year after arriving from Texas. He was their leading scorer a year ago, 12 points per game.
Forget about coming out of high school, a top 100 recruit, was ranked 86th in the ESPN top 100. Didn't get to the free throw line enough last year. I think this is where he needs to be more, and that comes with a level of aggressiveness. Now, this was on the three-point shot where he got hand-checked on the outside, but I'd like to see him get to the line more and manufacture points, especially on road games as this team goes away, and Utah will be a great example and a great test of that coming up later on this week.
Barnett will check out, replaced by Cullen Van Leer. Gone. Missouri dominant throughout. Still shooting better than 60% from the floor tonight.
What I loved on that possession with the defensive rotations, Jonte Porter sliding over and then helping the helper on the backside to get that steal. Not just about man awareness, it's also about ball awareness. Where is the ball? Where do you have to be? To be a great defensive team, you have to communicate. You have to talk and you have to have trust. This Missouri team talks well. Wagner talks really well, by the way, although they have not been able to handle the athleticism and the size of Missouri in this game. But the Missouri Tigers picking up exactly what Coach Martin wants them to. Trust is built every day at practice by communication at both ends of the floor. It's like the linebackers in football when they come up to the line of scrimmage, they're telling everybody, okay, this is where we got to shoot the gap. They're going to come here, trying to read the play.
Yeah, we were impressed by the energy at both shoot-arounds earlier today. There's a nice little pull-up for Elijah Davis. Wagner showing some fight here in this second half.
A lot of times we go to shoot-arounds, and it's really just a glorified walkthrough.
Yeah.
It was not a walkthrough for either one of these two teams.
Kevin Puryear with the pull-up.
They have lofty goals here at Missouri, and they start with number 24. He is not bashful of talking about his goals and what he wants to see accomplished for this team. A championship in the conference. He has visions of winning a national championship this year. And while people on the outside of this Missouri program that have seen this program over the last couple of years be like, that's not even possible, why would anybody think that way? If you watch how they played the other night against Iowa State, if you're watching what you're seeing tonight, a controlled team effort, they believe that they can accomplish huge things this year here. Now, I'm not saying I'm believing in it just yet, but if you don't think this is a top 25 team, I don't know what you're watching.
Which they're not there yet.
No, but they should be.
Next week, perhaps.
A win on the road at Utah certainly would help before they get to the Champ Week tournament down in Orlando.
Doing this without the injured Michael Porter tonight.
I just think they are so connected at both ends of the floor. Awareness, understanding floor spacing. You got multiple guys that can bring the ball to the floor. Jonte Porter brings it from end to end at 6'11", 240 pounds, and has soft touch in the paint.
11 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists for Jonte. You got Puryear, who hasn't missed a shot, right? He's 4 for 4, 12 points, and Robertson leading all scorers with 18.
You got to be a little bit more solid with the ball right there against pressure. This is a good opportunity. And again, staying attentive and focused. A good opportunity to experience a team pressuring you, and how will you handle the press? That time not well.
Turnover for Missouri, 13 for Wagner tonight. Francis Tillman way up to get that rebound. He's back in the game playing with 4 fouls. Setting the high ball screen. Phillips couldn't find him on the roll, but he draws the foul. We'll take the time out here with the teams and a big Missouri lead tonight in Columbia.
Stifling defense tonight by Missouri, and I want a couple things I want you to watch on this one. Watch the rotation defensively. Jonte Porter slides over. Everybody moving in sync. And on the steal, almost as good as the Phoenix Suns were when they got the turnover and they went in the opposite direction altogether. Only one of the 5 did not move as soon as the ball was caught. But that's what it marks a good defensive team. That's why you can hold your opponent to 28% shooting, which is impressive regardless of who you're playing. And it's when you're moving together, all 5 people out on the floor at the same time reacting to the ball.
Certainly helps when you have the size to back you up and to help clean up some mistakes. I'm sure all season long we're going to see the perimeter players able to really get in people's faces, knowing you got 6'10", 6'10", 6'11" behind you. And they'll force another turnover right there.
Wanting to be in sync, and this is what I was talking about. Watch as the ball gets caught, it starts to go in the other direction. Here, it's now responded. You've got 4 of the 5 going in the right direction right away.
Barnett couldn't quite sync it up with Tillman. Jeremiah still fighting for it and draws the foul.
Well, Barnett's got to learn to throw that one to the rim. Tillman wanted that up high. He dropped it off down low. The hands of the defense got in there. He was able to corral it to earn the trip to the free throw line.
Well, one of the things that Conzo Martin talked about, we are still learning the ways of one another. And when you've got 6'10" that can play well above the rim, still a work in progress trying to feed him the alley-oop. Can't get that one to go either. 17 of 24 at the free throw line tonight. And getting her chances. Offensive foul called on Wagner.
Communication. Terrence Phillips said, hey, bounce pass, don't throw it bounce, throw it high. And it's good communication. It's good leadership out on the floor by Terrence Phillips.
That foul was on Nigel Jackson, and that is the 5th on the freshman. And Nigel departs.
8 fouls in 2 games. He had 3 in 19 minutes opening night.
Jonte took the express there.
No, they're going to call that a foul on Jeremiah Tillman. He's going to be done.
And that is his 5th personal.
So he cleared out space.
Still to go.
Yeah, cleared out space on the drive. Yeah, I mean, you see him rotate his hips into the defensive player. It's actually a good call. And I'm sure that Conzo Martin probably wanted the travel that you and I both saw from our vantage point sitting over here instead of the 5th foul on Jeremiah Tillman.
Would have traded that one out. 40-point advantage for Missouri. JoJo Cooper, tough shot, got it to go over Phillips. JoJo's got 9.
As much as we talk about Missouri and how they need to execute down the stretch, and a great drive by Terrence Phillips, the same can be said for Wagner. You know, if you're Coach Mason right now, what you're looking at is who are my guys that aren't quitting? Who are the guys that are staying with what we want to do as a team? Because this is a long journey throughout the college basketball season. Tonight will not define the season for Wagner. It's about getting better, trying to improve so that you can compete in the Northeast Conference.
Certainly these are the ones you hope you can get on your resume, but now with Robertson shooting like that, another 3, that's his 5th, and he's got 21.
You think about the Northeast Conference this year, preseason favorite St. Francis. They lost their opener to St. Mary's. Fairleigh Dickinson, otherwise known as the Flying Seth Greenbergs, alma mater of Seth Greenberg, who played for Fairleigh Dickinson. They lost at Seton Hall and at Penn State.
That is the second Seahawk to depart with 5 fouls. Jamar Brown is out. Redshirt freshman out of Houston. Harlem.
Yeah, Jamar Brown also dealt with foul trouble on opening night. 3 fouls in 6 minutes. And he fouls out of tonight's contest. And not a lot more timeout on the floor either.
Barnett off the ball fake, lays it in. Jordan now into double digits with 11. He's the 4th guy for Missouri to get there. Cooper, the bump and the fade. Oh, the one-handed snag by Barnett. Turned it over in transition, and the missed gimme. Things getting a little sloppy here now. Brett Rao leaves it off for Barnett, and the throwdown! Barnett, assisted by Brett Rao. Dial-up Sports Center. Gonna see that one again tonight.
I'm gonna see it again right now. Open floor. It's not often in a game that's this decided already that everybody in the building's gonna go nuts, but that's how good this one was. The dump off, the extension, and the finish by Barnett. I actually like it more so in full speed than I'd even do in the slow motion.
Well, and that tells you a little something, too, about the chemistry of this group. Immediately, all the guys turn to Brett Rao for that pass to Barnett.
And this is what it looked like in full speed.
That's a technical term. We call that laying out in the biz. Because the crowd can say it better than we can. And the exclamation point from Jordan Barnett. 13 points, 5 boards.
This team is fun. It's fun to watch. They play together. The tournament this year is in St. Louis for the SEC. They couldn't have picked a better year to have the tournament in St. Louis.
Pretty much home for them.
And this building's going to be rocking throughout conference play.
Stick back is good. So now the question, Sean, becomes, well, how do you work Michael Porter back into this mix seamlessly?
Well, if the chemistry of what we see on the floor right now in front of us is any indication, it's not going to be an issue. I mean, you're talking about elite level talent that can do so many things, especially in space. And offensively tonight, what we've been talking about all night long, space. Missouri's got great spacing in their half-court sets. So you add a player in with the skill set of Michael Porter Jr., and it should take this team even a little bit higher to that next level. The key is obviously you want them healthy. And a tough road test, as we've mentioned, coming up against Utah. We'll talk a little bit more about what the Utes have to offer. But if you're asking what the Tigers have to offer tonight, just sit back, relax, and enjoy it, folks. The Tigers certainly are. They're rolling.
Thank you, guys. Missouri with the comfortable lead on 70% shooting from the floor tonight. They've hit 10 triples. And on the defensive end, they've forced 19 turnovers and held Wagner to under 30% from the floor.
And again, depth so important, especially when you have an injury to a player that's as talented as Michael Porter Jr. 23-3 in points off the bench tonight. You're getting 23 points off your bench. Your starters are shooting the ball as well as they have in this game. I mean, this has been an impressive performance, the mental approach, the details coming off of the big win against Iowa State to come out and execute this way is huge for Coach Martin and this team moving forward.
Robertson gets the bounce.
When you shake the defensive player, create space, and then finish. 23 points now for Robertson.
He's been terrific on the perimeter. They've got good balance from their post players tonight. Nice follow. Devin Liggins, the junior out of Philly.
You mentioned coming up next, Utah. Utah returns 10 lettermen from a season ago, including Cedric Barfield, who moved from the bench to the starting lineup, had 22 points in their opener. Larry Koskowiak consistently has a team that overachieves in the Pac-12. That'll be a good test in Salt Lake City coming up on Thursday.
And one opportunity here for Liggins. And an injured player down at mid-court. Here's another look at this.
Good attack, good aggressiveness. But right now the focus, if you're Wagner, you just want to get out of this game and you don't want to have anybody hurt. You want to make sure.
It's Elijah Davis.
Elijah Davis, his size. Important for this team moving forward. They got to be healthy and they got to continue to grow. And we talked about Missouri and the influx of talent that they have. I mean, this Wagner team is like a complete turnover from a season ago. They lost a lot of talent, including Michael Carey, who graduated. Micah Mann, who suffered a season-ending leg injury the second last game of the regular season, included his collegiate eligibility last summer. So they've got a lot of guys in different roles than what they were a season ago. Blake Francis is one of those guys that had good minutes, but as a sophomore, they need him to be a consistent and productive scorer in order to compete in conference play.
This will certainly be one of their bigger challenges in the non-conference. They do have a date with Seton Hall just before Christmas. But other than that, you know, you got to figure they're in every other non-conference game before actually starting out the NEC right after Christmas, before the start of the new year. Chance for a lot of different guys to get some minutes tonight for Missouri. They jumped out quickly and have kept their foot on the gas. Pushing the other way and then losing the handle is Tyler Plummer, but he's fouled. Well, we talked about one of Missouri's upcoming trips will be to Disney down in Orlando for a tournament. And they will start out in the Advocare Invitational with Long Beach State.
A potential matchup against St. John's or Oregon State, should they be able to knock off the 49ers. You make it to the championship game, you get yourself a really good matchup that can help and pay off down the stretch. West Virginia obviously going to look to bounce back off of that loss to Texas A&M. Some good tests ahead for Missouri to prepare them and get them ready for conference play.
We'll have those games for you on the ESPN networks. We're getting ready to head to New York. Of course, we get closer to Thanksgiving. We've got the Maui Invitational to look forward to.
As well as the PK80 this year.
Yes.
It's just going to be a can't-miss tournament event. Thanksgiving Day. You've got 16 teams in 2 different brackets. And you've got the likes of North Carolina, Duke, Michigan State, Florida, Arkansas, Stanford, Oregon, UConn, Gonzaga, Ohio State. I mean, that bracket is just so loaded from top to bottom. And you take a look and you've got 2 brackets. Okay, now you'll have 2 different champions. You have 23 national champions combined in that field, and it's going to be a great event. I can't wait to get to Oregon next week for that. Go coast to coast in the next week and get to see a lot of great basketball.
Yes, and it will we'll be coming right back at you tomorrow night with that big doubleheader up in Chicago. Michigan State and Duke number 1 versus number 2, and then Kentucky and Kansas.
So I was here right after they had the scrimmage, the exhibition game with Kansas that
Oh, that was fantastic, by the way, right?
Raised a ton of money.
A couple $1 million for hurricane relief.
And my takeaway from watching that game was it was actually good that Missouri lost.
How so?
If they would have beat Kansas, they would feel like they've already arrived. And if you're Coach Martin, you don't want your team. They played well enough where they had confidence, but because they lost the game, the carrot was still dangling out there. Okay, this is where we have to improve. It's clear if we want to compete and want to play against the best, we're in the ballpark right now. We have our chance, but we've got to fine-tune some aspects of our team and our game to improve to be ready for those big moments and those big games.
And one opportunity here for Reed Nico, and the assist from Van Leer.
Now let me be clear, if that game counted on their record,
they would have taken the win.
I will tell you that you want to win 100% of the time. But because it didn't, you have to understand the mental and the psychological approach that Coach Martin could use with this team to help prepare them for the season. And what we've seen in the first 2 games has been a very impressive Missouri team with all except for 2 minutes without their best player, Michael Porter Jr., beat an Iowa State team that's going to find themselves over the course of the season by 15 and then come out tonight and execute in this fashion. Right from the start, they dropped the hammer and they haven't let up.
A.J. Sumbry now is the 3rd Seahawk to foul out. 27 trips to the free throw line for Mizzou. Short on the shot is McGray, and that will go to Missouri, and I think the officials may discuss.
They discussed it and made the decision that they stay with the call. He also asked about, okay, the mental approach of the team coming off the exhibition game against Kansas and how that was positive, I think, for this Missouri team. The other aspect now, without Michael Porter Jr. in these first 2 games, what is the mental approach you take away from that can turn into a positive for this Missouri Tigers team? Confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence in other players on the roster that might not have gotten these opportunities this early in the season if Michael Porter Jr. is out on the floor. Now you bring in a player like Michael Porter Jr., and now as he distributes the ball, because he's a good passer as well, he's got good court awareness and vision, he's a willing passer, he finds his teammates. They've got even more confidence to knock down those shots.
Chance for a lot of different guys to get minutes. 8 of the 11 that have played tonight, in fact, have scored. Phillips knocks down the second. We talk about how good Michael Porter Jr. is, the expectation so high. It's not often that an incoming freshman is already a preseason player of the year in the conference, as well as a preseason AP All-American. In fact, Porter just the 5th that's ever gotten that honor.
We'll take a look at all the freshmen. He's in good company on that list. And when talking with Michael Porter Jr. for the SportsCenter feature that aired last Friday, the conversation that I had with him, the one thing that stood out most to me, I asked him in the interview, what's going to make this different than Ben Simmons? Markelle Fultz season. And he said, the belief that I have in my teammates and the fact that I believe that this team is not about Michael Porter Jr., it's about us collectively as a group getting better as the season goes on. And if his mind is there and if his actions are there, which I have no reason to believe that they're not, this team could go far. This team is going to make noise as they continue to improve and gel.
Not in the sense of the draft picks, by the way, but of the success of the team that Fultz and Simmons did not experience. He's got to be watching back in that locker room and really liking the way his teammates are performing. And the crowd calling for Adam Wolf and getting Adam Wolf. He'll be checking in off the bench. Nice moment for Adam. Junior out of Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. He's got 4.5 minutes. Replacing Kevin Puryear. Kevin in double digits with 12 points tonight. Nice pull up there from Blake Francis. Blake's got 11. And JoJo Cooper leading the way tonight for Wagner. Rao tried to feed it to Wolf.
If Wolf scores, I think the student section is going to lose their mind. On the catch, they are involved. The focus for the Final Four might be on that man, number 32 in white.
Get it! College hoops are here, big time. Boom! It's #1 Duke versus #2 Michigan State, #4 Kansas, battling it out with Kentucky. One night, 2 blockbuster matchups with the college football playoffs, top 25 in between games.
Big night tomorrow night at the United Center in Chicago with that double dip. Right now, inside Mizzou Arena, all eyes on Adam Wolf, number 32 in white, with 11 career points. And the crowd wants more. Getting an opportunity to get some PT here. An impressive showing for the Missouri Tigers and well balanced tonight. Got 5 guys in double figures, led by Cassius Robertson with 23. Jonte Porter really set the tone in that first half. Looks like he's going to finish up with 11 points, 8 boards, and 4 assists.
Now, if there's one aspect that you're going to look at from Missouri and say, okay, what can we improve upon? Where can we clean the game up more? It'd be the turnovers. 16 turnovers tonight for Missouri.
Five on the shot clock.
You never want to have, obviously, more turnovers than you have assists. They've got 16 turnovers, 15 assists tonight for Missouri. I think as efficient as they have been with the ball, and you're nitpicking, obviously, here, but
as coaches, they're always going to look for something, right?
You know, if as efficient as they shot the ball, if they cut down some of those turnovers, they're well over 100 points right now.
Good help by Nico. Chase Freeman going to check in here for Wagner. Three ball is good for the Seahawks.
You want to know how efficient Missouri's been?
I do. I do.
Their 16 turnovers are one more than the missed field goals they've had in the entire game. They only missed 15 shots.
Shooting 67% tonight. Gonna get a reach-in foul there and some frustration from Blake Francis. Tonight at 11:30 Eastern, after the Dolphins and Panthers on ESPN. Tune into Sports Center, hosted by Scott Van Pelt. Have all the latest from the Monday Night Football game. Can Carolina catch the Saints in the NFC South? How about Coach K and Coach Cal on the eve of the Champions Classic. And another blowout win versus Orlando. Question mark for the Streaky Warriors. That's all coming up. Sports Center with SVP after Monday Night Football. Final 2 minutes here in Columbia. Skip pass, Plummer short. Van Leer gets the rebound. Wolf for three. Got it! Adam Wolf's triple lights up the night here in Columbia. Gave the people what he wanted on that one. Good counter for Wagner. Final minute.
It's 94-53, under a minute left to go. I'm hoping there's a stoppage in play just so we can show it to you again. Yeah. Watch Wolf, sit back and listen to the crowd. Just soak it in.
Everybody appreciates the efforts of those guys deep down the bench. And unfortunately here for the Seahawks, an injured player. And it's Blake Francis.
He took a hard fall that time on the foul from Terrence Phillips. And when he went down, he grabbed his back immediately. And you watch this on the rip through here. He slides over, and you see the way that he fell and immediately reaches his right hand back in the lower portion of his back. That's the last thing you want to see right now for Wagner.
Athletic trainers are out there. Francis with 17 points tonight, 5 3-pointers. He's hardly stepped off the floor. Now in his 38th minute of work tonight.
He's one of those guys that has a great motor and is going to be a leader for this program, not just this year as a sophomore, but moving forward. And you hope whatever that injury was to his lower back isn't going to be lasting or cause him any issues moving forward for Wagner. They're already playing without Ramon Saunders, who had 15 points in their win at UConn before suffering a second-half injury that sidelined him for the rest of the season. He's still out. He's going to have to work his way back in probably around the middle of December. Wagner not at 100%.
They're also without Shaq Scott, who does double duty. He's a wide receiver on the Wagner football team. They have one more game left on the schedule. And then they'll get some frontline help when Scott switches back over to basketball. And then hopefully Saunders as well in December. Points tonight for Cassius Robertson, double digits for Jonte Porter, as well as Phillips and Puryear. And we're being told, Sean, this is the most points scored by a Missouri team in 4 years.
Also the 2-0 start, an outstanding way to start your season. You've got a renewed sense of energy. You mentioned it multiple times during the course of the game, Beth. This environment, when it's packed, when the students are here, is one of the best environments in the SEC. And it's going to be a difficult place for teams to try to come and find a win this year based on the support and the energy level that this fan base has found, that renewed sense of purpose to be here and support this team.
They certainly look like they will be a team to deal with, and a relevant one in the Southeastern Conference. Working off these final seconds. Brett Rao.
That is his first career points here in a Missouri uniform.
Everybody in on the act tonight. 99-55 the final. Missouri a win over Wagner.
You know, Beth, coming into the night, you wondered how this team mentally was going to approach after the big win against Iowa State. Everybody that took the floor got into the action. They shared the ball. It smiles all the way across, and now they'll get on a plane for their first road test of the season against the Utah Utes.
Along with Sean Farnham, I'm Beth Mullins. Thanks for joining us tonight in Columbia, Missouri. Next on ESPN2, it's E60, presented by Liberty Mutual. Missouri gets the win over Wagner, 99-55.